Hey Winterfest, today we're going to discuss probably one of the least popular but most difficult disciplines, and that is submission. Submission does not mean weakness. Submission does not mean that you're a loser. It doesn't mean that you're less than. Submission means that you make the choice, not based on weakness, but based on your identity as a child of God. And because I am a child of God, I can make this choice. God has given us free will. And with that free will, which probably was the most difficult part of creation for God, we have the ability to choose well or choose poorly. We can choose darkness or light, good or evil. And when we choose to submit ourselves to His will, we remain in the light. When we choose to submit to God, we make Him happy. Submission is a choice. It's the same choice that Jesus Himself had when He was here. It's what the Bible was talking about in Philippians chapter 2. When in describing Jesus, Paul says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but rather in humility value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interest of others. In your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Christ Jesus, who, being in very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to His own advantage, but rather He made Himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness, and being found in appearance as a man, He humbled Himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross." When Jesus Christ was here, He had the same choice that you and I have, to be obedient to God's will or to do what His flesh was trying to get Him to do. But Jesus Himself said, "No, I'm going to be obedient to the Father. I'm going to try my very best to line my will up to His." And you know, frankly, sometimes that's easier than others. Sometimes that can be quite difficult. Like that time for Jesus Himself when He was about to be arrested and taken into custody. He was at the Mount of Olives. In Luke chapter 22, Jesus went out to the Mount of Olives and His disciples followed Him. On reaching the place, He said to them, "Pray that you will not fall into temptation." He withdrew about a stone's throw behind them, knelt down and prayed, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me, yet not my will, but yours be done." What Jesus said in that crucial, stressful, all-important moment was, "God, I really don't want to do this, but that doesn't matter. What really matters is what you want. Nevertheless, Father, not my will, but yours be done." Jesus submitted His will to the will of the Father. You and I have that same choice every day. Am I going to submit my desires? Am I going to submit my dreams? Am I going to submit my wants to the will of God? Sometimes that's easier than others. Sometimes it's quite a challenge. The other day, I saw an interview with a young lady named Lolo Jones. Lolo Jones is one of the favorites at this year's London Olympic Games. Lolo is 29 years old. And at the 2008 Beijing Games, she was in the final of the hurdles. And she was the favorite. And as she was coming up on the last hurdle, she was in the lead. One more hurdle before she won the gold medal for the United States. But as she crossed that last hurdle, she stumbled and she fell. And she didn't win a medal. And in this interview, she discussed the difficulty of dealing with coming so close, but stumbling and falling, not winning the gold medal. Dealing with that failure was incredibly tough for her. But then she went on in this interview to say something I found quite interesting. She says, what's even more difficult for me than that is remaining a virgin. I said, what? We're talking about gold medals and hurdles and winning glory for your nation and for yourself. She's talking about the struggle every day of trying to remain sexually pure. She's a Christian, and she's trying her best every day as someone who's very prominent, someone who's very visible, someone who frankly now makes a lot of money selling other people's products and things. And she says, I want to try to remain in God's will. I want to submit my will to God. And she said that that's the most difficult thing she's done in her life, including dealing with failure on the national stage. And that's the question that you and I deal with each day. Am I submitting my will to God's will? Am I able to say, nevertheless, Father, not what I want, but you want? God, I want to submit myself to you. I want to submit my will to you, my desires, my dreams, my wishes, my habits. Am I doing that in my life? Are you doing that in your life, submitting yourself to God? And finally, one last question. Is there one area in my life today that I especially need to let go of myself and let go of my dreams and my desires and my will and let God take over? Is there one area in my life that I need to submit to God, especially today? May God bless you as you submit your will to His.